shape thoughts find out, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. One of her advocacy helping small business owners attract, engage, and convert more leads online, no other than Miss Alison Ver Halen.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome, welcome, Miss Alison, an abstract essay. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I
Yeah, like you said, I help businesses attract, engage, and convert leads online. That is my specialty. I work with the long form website content, so I don't do social media, but I partner with people who do. But it's all about getting those leads, showing up, making the robots happy so you can show up when people are looking for you, which is much easier than it is to work with those leads than it is to try and convince people who have never heard of you and don't know what you do and don't know why they should care. It just makes the whole process so much easier when you can show up them when they're looking for you, and then warm them up, educate them on the value you provide, why they need your services, what that benefit is, and then lead them to the next stage of the buyer journey. And that's everything that I do with the content that I create for my clients.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom, too. And today, let's talk about the 9 steps to great content creation process. So tell us, before the 9 steps, what's the core problem you see when creators work without defining process? Is it a burnout, consistency, or different fundamental issue?
Consistency is the one that I see the most when people don't have a schedule. That's always my first step, is figure out when the schedule is. And it doesn't have to be set in stone. It doesn't have to be, you're going to publish on this date at this time for the rest of time. If you find out that maybe publishing later or publishing a little bit earlier gets you better results, then absolutely make those adjustments. But you can't adjust strategically if you don't have that process in place first. And honestly, if you don't have that process in place first, let's be honest, you're never going to create content. As someone who I do write the landing pages and sales pages and bios and all that good stuff, but blogging is still my bread and butter. I still write a lot of blog posts for my clients so they can show up as thought leaders in their industry. And that's the work, that the content that does a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of engaging and converting those leads. And if you're doing your own blogging and you don't have a process where you create content, and publish it this day, every week, every month, however often it might be, it's always the last thing on your to-do list and it never gets done. So have that schedule, figure out how often you're going to publish content, and make sure that that is a deadline like any other deadline in your business.
What is the most significant mindset shift a creator must make to transition from being a sporadic idea generator to a consistent process driven content engine?
Yeah, that's hard because they have to really buy in to the value that content marketing provides. And if they buy in and they get it, then they're all in. But again, usually we find that those people for whom it's not there, they don't really get it. Those are the people for whom they lack consistency. They post sporadically. Honestly, those people often tend to talk about themselves a lot, which I understand. It's on your website. You think you're supposed to talk about yourself, and you're not. You're really supposed to talk about your clients and the results that you got for them, the results you can get for your audience, for the people who are showing up for this content every week, day, again, however often you publish. But putting those people front and center is going to get you much better results. And honestly, it's often easier for some people. Some people are happy to talk about themselves all day. A lot of people I run into are really nervous about talking about themselves all day long. So don't talk about yourself. Talk about your clients and how awesome they are, and help them understand the benefits that you can help them get, whether it's with themselves personally, with their family, with their business, however it is you're helping them. keeping them front and center makes it much easier to create content when you realize that the content you're providing, that you're creating, is really having a benefit and really helping people just through the content itself. Obviously, you always want them to, again, eventually reach out and call you, fill out the form, whatever that final step is. But ultimately, the content needs to provide content in and of itself before they're going to be convinced that you really know what you're talking about, and they're going to reach out for that final consultation, that sales call.
Miss Allison, if some fear a process will make a content feel robotic, how does your nine-step system actually enhance creativity instead of shifting it?
Storytelling. So I always like to use what I call the Cinderella formula. It's not the only formula that you need to use when you're creating content, but I always like to start with that pain point because that's what's going to draw people in. It's never the happy ending because people want to know that they get there eventually. They're drawn in by, I'm suffering with this problem. It's really causing me a headache. I'm worried about what's going to happen if I don't solve the problem. So talk about that in your content. Talk about what that problem is. Empathize with them, because that's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of earning their trust. When they understand that you actually understand their problem and you have empathy for them, and that is going to draw them in. So then they want to know, how can you make their lives better? And that's when you get into, well, this is now you as the fairy godmother coming and being like, all right, here's how we're going to do this. We've got these steps. You can implement these right now. You can go to the ball, have a great time. But at midnight, right, the carriage is going to turn back into a pumpkin. The ball gown is going to turn back into rags. You're going to have to come back into this world of this pain point, unless you reach out and, again, have that sales call, that conversation, that consultation, whatever that final step is. So unlike Cinderella, right, you're not going to give them that happy ending. You're going to leave them in that pain point until they reach out to you and buy your services.
Miss Allison, tell us, on refinement and optimization, what are the top three things you look for in the editing and revision step to transform a good draft into a great final piece?
Yeah, it has to have that storytelling piece for sure. It has to have a unique perspective. It can't just be something ChatGPT could have created, as far as here are the three things that we see, blah, 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 whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be, this works, here's why. Or this doesn't work, and here's how I know this. When you have your unique perspective in there, that's what sets you apart as a thought leader. That's what's going to really convince people that you really know what you're talking about.
Indeed, know your piece, people, for sure. In a, in a specific non-negotiable pre-publishing checklist you see or you use to ensure every piece of content is polished and ready for its audience. Is there a specific thing?
Is there one specific thing, or is there a list? Wait, I'm sorry, what's the
Yes.
question?
Is there a specific thing or non-negotiable pre-publishing
Mm.
checklist?
There is, yeah. I have my own checklist that I maintain, that I go through to make sure that, yeah, it's checking all the boxes. It is doing it's doing everything it needs to be doing in terms of, again, attracting, engaging, and then converting. And that call to action, that last piece, is so critical. And it's another one where, unfortunately, a lot of people drop the ball because they think that the rest of the content did all the heavy lifting, and now, all right, now just reach out for a sales call. They should be ready, right? Well, I mean, sometimes, but not always. Sometimes they're just dipping their toes in the water. They're just trying to figure out the benefits of investing in XYZ, if this is really something that they need, if it's not something that they really need, in which case they might click away and go do something else. So having a call to action that meets them where they are is really important. So it's not always, sign up for the consultation, let's have a sales call. Sometimes it's sign up for my webinar, subscribe to my newsletter, follow us on social media, so you can keep pushing that content in front of them and keep positioning yourself as a thought leader.
Miss Allison, does your nine steps process require a specific set of tools? Or is it a framework that can be applied with any tool the creator prefers?
I would definitely say some tools are recommended for some of the steps. Keyword research for the SEO, the search engine optimization part of it, is certainly key. I use SERPstat. That's my favorite tool. But yeah, you have to have a keyword tool. You cannot just ask ChatGPT about keywords because ChatGPT is not an SEO tool. It cannot give you the information that something like SERPstat or SEMrush can give you. So use one of those tools. Even Google's keyword planner is better than nothing. It's not great, but it does give you some idea of the keywords that people are using, so that you have an understanding of what are the words and phrases you can use in your content that A, people are already looking for, and B, does not have a lot of competition, which means there's not a lot of content out there using that keyword or phrase. So that means people are looking for answers for this question and they're not finding those answers. So that's a great opportunity for you to step up and fill in that content gap. So definitely having at the very least an SEO tool is key.
How does this process help creators manage the overwhelming feeling that they have to be everywhere at once, like blog,
Mm-hmm.
video, podcast, or social media?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, repurposing is huge. Always recommend repurposing as much as you can. My favorite way is to, yeah, create a video and then take the audio from that video and turn it into a podcast and then transcribe that and turn it into a blog post. That is easier than ever with tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, whatever it is you want to use. You can just dump that transcript in there and say, hey, turn this into a blog post for me. You're still going to need to refine it and get a pair of human eyes on there because the robots can only do so much. It's still going to sound super generic, but by making sure that you get your own voice in there, your own wording in there, it's going to be, and then put it out on social media, share it in your newsletter. Your newsletter does not need to be its own piece of content. It can be, hey, here's what's going on this week. This is something I found interesting. This is the new blog post. This is what I'm promoting this week. You're done. So absolutely, yes, you do need to be. You don't really need to be everywhere all at once. The other recommendation that I have is understanding your audience. So, for example, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn because I'm a B2B business, and that's where a lot of my people are hanging out. So that's where I spend my time. I don't really bother. Tried Facebook and Instagram for a while, did not work for me. So I'm focusing very heavily on YouTube and LinkedIn. So know your audience, know where they are hanging out, know what types of content they are consuming. Are they listening to podcasts? Are they watching videos? Are they reading blog posts? Are they reading books? And then creating content that they are more likely to consume and putting it where they're already hanging out online is going to get you the results you need.
Where in the nine steps do you incorporate reviewing performance data and audience feedback to inform and improve your next cycle of content?
Yeah, every time you publish content, you need to review it and see what works. Weekly, I get weekly reports from my various tools that tell me this is what did well, this is what performed the best, this is what most people are looking at. I also get monthly reports from various tools, and those are really helpful to look at as far as, oh, people are really engaging with this, or people, don't care about this as much. Yeah, absolutely. Get that data, and then every time you get the data after you publish and before you go to create the next round of content, or before you plan the next round of content. For me, it's usually weekly, sometimes bi-weekly. Some people kind of batch their content production process, so they're making all the content for the month all at once, or within a few days of each other. So whenever that gap is between after you've published the last batch and before you publish the next batch, that at the very least is when you should be checking the data to see how well it did.
Miss Allison, as you helping small business owners attract and engage, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Long term is always to get not just more leads, but to get more sales. When content is done right, it can do the heavy lifting in terms of educating and engaging those leads so that by the time they reach out to work with you, like they already know A, that they need this, and B, that you're the one they want to work with. One of my favorite sales calls was someone who upsold herself on the sales call right then and there, just because, and as she did so, she was quoting something that I had written fairly recently in one of my blog posts. I recognized, where that rationale was coming from. I was like, oh, so she's been following my newsletter for a while, actually clicking through and reading the blog posts and educating herself so that by the time she reached out, she understood the value of that higher value package instead of one of the lower priced packages. So it was so much easier. And I absolutely love that. So having the content do the work for you. And we all have those stories of people for whom either they don't have content or the content's not working, and they end up spending so much time on the sales call trying to convince these prospects why they're an expert, why they're good at what they do, why they need XYZ. And it's a lot of time and effort, especially if the prospect is resistant to it. If they've been reading your content, they're not going to be resistant. They're educated, they're nice warm leads, they're ready to work with you. It's so much easier to have those sales calls.
Interesting, and good luck to your goals, and looking forward for more success, Miss Allison. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Yeah, the first piece of advice is always create a schedule for your content. Um, and I would say even before that, look at who your ideal client is. Figure out where they're hanging out online and what are the types of content that they like to consume, so that you can create content for them and put it in the places where they're already hanging out. So you're setting yourself up for success.
Indeed. Thank you for that advice. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Oh, well, a quick plug for my book, Content Marketing Made Easy, which you can find
Yes.
on Amazon. The whole idea behind it is that content marketing and SEO are not rocket science, and so I wanted to create a book that would do exactly that: lead people through the process of here's how you create it, here's what you do with it once you've created it, and talk to them in a way that in language they understand, instead of trying to talk over their heads, because it's really not that complicated once you understand the basics of SEO and content marketing. It's just getting through all of the fluff that people put out online to make themselves sound really smart, and instead they just end up making their prospects feel dumb, and no one likes that. So that's my book, Content Marketing Made Easy. Thank you.
And thank you for that. I'm inviting you to my other podcast, Book 101 Review, and let's talk about your book over there. So, Miss Allison, tell us, beyond saving time, what is the most significant return on investment? Better audience connection and higher quality leads, more strategic thinking, or that is a creator gains from implementing this?
Yeah, it draws leads to you, instead of going out and trying to hunt people down and figure out where they're online and cold out. No one likes cold outreach. So I think that's the biggest benefit for me, at least, is not having to do any more of those awful, awkward cold calls. Instead, they reach out to you, and they are, like I said, ready and willing to work with you before they ever get on the phone. So, but it's a process, especially if what you're providing is a higher investment. It is going to be require people spend a fair amount of time with your content before they're ready to buy. So it is an investment, but when done right and done consistently, it really pays off.
How does moving through these 9 steps change a creator's relationship with content block or the fear of running out of ideas?
Oh, never run out of ideas. First and foremost, there's just always new things that are happening. Updates is something that I write about frequently on my blog, and I always recommend people write on their blogs what's new in your industry, what's a new law that was passed, or a new technology that just came out. The big talk right now is AI, which ChatGPT was what, 2-3 years ago now, and we're still all talking about it. Um, So talk about that stuff. Talk about what are the questions people are asking you in every sales conversation, every networking event, every cocktail party you go to. When you tell people what you do, what are those questions that come up again and again and again? Write about it on your blog, because if people are asking those questions in real life, they're probably going to, Google or ChatGPT or whatever search engine they're using, and asking those questions as well. So I do also love using ChatGPT for idea generation. That is one of the um, great ways to use it. I would just say be wary, because it can default to telling you what everyone else is already talking about, and then you're just more white noise. I do use that as a starting point, but then I always go back to my keyword research tool to make sure that it's not something that has been covered to death. And then Answer the Public is another great tool that I use that can give you you put in a word or a search term, and it gives you all of the questions asked throughout the internet using that term. Great way to come up with ideas. But again, always go back to your keyword research tool and make sure that it's actually a valuable keyword. And then seeing what your competitors are talking about. I myself have consumed great marketing content from different people that I follow that have talked about it from different perspectives. One person will say, this should never ever be done for, whatever reason. And then the next week I see something from a competitor saying, yeah, actually, no, you should always do this, and here's why. And getting to read both of those perspectives and seeing why these people are experts in their industry is always fascinating to me. But again, it can't just be, put something out there that's controversial. You have to have reasons to back it up, because that's what's going to set you up as a thought leader.
Miss Allison, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast law 101 and mental health 101, love letters in third season, and movie 101 review and music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Allison, if a overwhelmed creator listening right now or watching could only focus on perfecting one of these 9 steps first, which one would you have the biggest ripple effect and why?
Definitely consistency. The real live people who come to your content are going to look to see how consistently you've been creating content. And the same with, Google and the various robots. The more content that they see that you consistently creating, the more that's going to build trust with them, as well as with the real life people you have in your audience or that you want to attract into your audience. So consistently creating content, making it a habit, again, having it part of your schedule so that you are always creating content, you will find that it is kind of like compound interest. The more you put into it and the more you do it consistently, the more it will just build off of itself, so that eventually you have this whole library of content that you can use for, again, putting all over the place, putting in your newsletter, putting in emails to prospects, putting in, in your social media, all over the place. So don't just build that library, absolutely use that library once it's built so you can get the most out of it.
Yes, people, consistency is the key to success. So,
Mhm.
Miss Allison, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Absolutely, yes. So you have it up there. Thank you for having that. That is my website, AV, as in my initials, Alison Ver Halen. That is avwritingservices.com. There's a lot of that website has been up for 6 years now, so lots of content on there. My book, Content Marketing Made Easy, like I said, you can get that on Amazon, print or digital. And check out my YouTube channel, which also has a lot of information. That's just Alison Ver Halen, content marketer. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Allison Ver Helen, because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Miss Allison, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Maricon people, see you soon.